Dear students, this is the third and the final part of the circulatory system, in which you will learn about the cardiac cycle and you will also learn about the cardiac conduction system. About the cardiac cycle, as we are already done with the structure of the heart and the circulation through the heart. Now, cardiac cycle is actually, it is the sequence of the coordinated contractions. How the contractions in the heart take place. First, the contractions of the auricles and the ventricles. Firstly, both in one cardiac cycle, both the atria simultaneously relax and contract, followed by the relaxation and contraction of ventricles. That constitutes one cardiac cycle. A relaxation of and this one cardiac cycle, it lasts around for 0.8 seconds. The relaxation of atria and ventricles, that's called the diastole. At that time, the heart is filled with the blood. At the time when the atria and the ventricles relax, the heart is filled with the blood, and that's called the diastole. And once the contraction of atria and ventricles take place, that's called the systole. And that time, it is at the time of the contraction, the blood leaves the heart. At the time of relaxation, when the chambers of the heart relax, that time heart is filled with the blood. But at the time of contraction, the heart pumps out the blood and the blood leaves the heart. So and it is at the time of the ventricular contraction, the heart pumps the blood out into the arteries, and at that time the heart exerts the pressure. By its pumping action, it exerts the pressure on the walls of the blood vessels, and that pressure is equal to 120 millimeters of the mercury. 120 mmHg or 120 millimeters of the mercury. And at the same time, when the relaxation of the ventricles takes place, that's called the ventricular diastole, and that time the pressure dips and it decreases up to 80 mmHg. So the normal blood pressure in a human being, it's around 120 mmHg. It varies with the age, and sometimes in adults, in young folk, it can go up to 125 by 80 mmHg. So it was about the blood pressure and the cardiac cycle. And now about the heart sounds. You know, our heart, it produces sounds at the time when the valves in our heart, as there are two sets of the valves in our heart, when they close, that time they produce sounds at the time when they are shut. And those sounds, they are identified by means of an instrument that's called a stethoscope. And you can usually see the stethoscope around the neck of the doctors. And that sound, there are two types of the sounds that can be identified by means of that instrument. That's called the lub sound and dub sound. At the time when the ventricles contract, that time you can clearly hear the lub sound. And at that time, what happens? The atrioventricular valves, AV valves, get closed. When AV valves get closed, they produce a sound, and that sound can be heard as lub sound. And after that, when the ventricles relax, they push the blood into the blood vessels, they relax. That times the semilunar valves close, and by that, when the semilunar valves shut, they produce the sound, and that sound can clearly be heard as a dub sound. But if there is any sort of the sound which doesn't resemble lub and dub sound, that can be called as the heart murmur, and that needs the medical attention. Maybe sometimes the valves, they do not get closed properly and they leak the blood. It produces the swishing sound, and that sound is called as the heart murmur, which needs the immediate medical attention. Now I would like to continue my lecture with the cardiac conduction system. Now let's know how the initiation of the heartbeat takes place. Where from our heartbeat initiates. That's called the cardiac conduction system. And this cardiac conduction system, it is a system of specialized muscle cells present in our heart which initiate the heartbeat, or which initiate the cardiac cycle. There are 4 types of the specialized muscle cells in our heart. The first one is called the cyanoauricular node, or SA node, which is present here. It is present at the upper side of the right atria. And then another one is called the atrioventricular node, or which is also called as the AV node. It is present at the base of the right atria near the wall of the heart, or near the partition of the heart, which is called the septum. Then third type of the specialized muscle cells, they are called as the AV bundles, or the atrioventricular bundles, or the bundles of His. And they are present here, the bundles of His. And then these bundles of His, they branch into the ventricles and they give rise to the fiber-like structures which are called the Purkinje fibers. They are also the specialized muscle cells. And these 4 types of the muscle cells, they are responsible for the conduction of the cardiac conduction, initiation of the heartbeat. So what happens, first of all, this type of the specialized muscle tissue, which is present at the upper side of the right atria, this is called the SA node, or the cyanoauricular node. It sets the, from this point, from this muscular tissue, the initiation of the heartbeat takes place. Automatically the heartbeat gets initiated from here. The electrical impulses get initiated from here, and it initiates the heartbeat. And this is also called as the pacemaker of the heart. Why it is called the pacemaker of the heart? Because it sets the pace of the heartbeat. So from here, once the electrical impulses are generated, the heartbeat is generated. This heartbeat, it travels across the right atria, and it is caught by this AV node, or the atrioventricular node, which is present at the base of the right atria. This atrioventricular node, it will pass on this electrical impulse to the atrioventricular bundles, or the bundles of His. And these bundles of His, they get branched into so many fiber-like projections, and these fiber-like projections, they you can find them into the ventricles of the heart, and they are called the Purkinje fibers. These Purkinje fibers, they are responsible for the ventricular contractions. This is how all these 4 types of the specialized muscle cells, they are responsible for the initiation of the heartbeat, and for carrying out the coordinated contractions of the heart. So this was all about the cardiac conduction system. But now here I would like to add that this heart, this human heart, or the heart present in the vertebrates, this is also called as the myogenic heart. Why it is called the myogenic heart? Because the initiation of the heartbeat that is automatically generated within the heart by means of the modified muscle tissues, which are called as the SA node, which is also called as the pacemaker of heart. But in case of the myogenic heart, there is another type of the heart which is called the myogenic heart, that is present generally in the annelids, or that is present in the arthropods. You can find in them that there is a set of the ganglions which initiate the heartbeat. So that's called the neurogenic heart. But in case of the vertebrates and in case of the human beings, we have got the myogenic heart as our heart. It initiates the heartbeat inside the heart by means of the specialized muscle tissues. So this was all about the heart. Thanks for watching. Wait for my next lecture.